It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
This is the Cosmick Voice. Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cosmick Voice. This is Season 7, Episode 3. I am here with my co-host, Chris Natalini.
What is up, everybody?
And I am Mick Michaels. Welcome back, everyone, to another show. Chris, how are you, sir? Episode 3 already. The season's almost over.
Short season this year. I'm doing fantastic, bro. Episode 3, super excited. Season 7, we are moving along.
We are moving along. You know what? Actually, every year we say we're going to make it a short season and then 25 episodes or plus later. And I guess for some people that is a short season, especially in the podcast world. I mean, there's guys that go every day or 3 times a week, or, you know.
Yeah.
But because of our schedules, I mean, people have already heard this before, but because of our personal schedules, that's just not possible for us. So rather than just keep putting things out that may be not up to a certain level for our standard, we'd rather do it this way. To me, I think this works so much better. And I remember us talking early on, we wanted to look at it like it was, you know, like a television type of season.
Yes.
This way we can actually give ourselves time to develop topics and a show direction as the scene unfolds. Because we're also in it. We're doing it. Still trying the best we can at this age.
Best we can, yeah.
And we're experiencing some of these massive changes that are happening, and we want to bring them back to the show. I think if we're doing it every week, especially for what we're trying to accomplish at this show, it may get a little, like we start repeating. And unfortunately, that's happening anyway because there are things in the scene that overlap, right? This business overlaps. And some of it is worth repeating. And if people are picking up mid-season or they're starting at Season 6 rather than Season 1, it's good for them to hear it.
No, I agree, bro. Well, first of all, it's quality over quantity. I'd rather do that. But, you know, we're doing this real time, and the industry is constantly changing. There's constant goings-ons. Like, I mean, perfect example, you know, at the time of recording this, you know, there's that thing that came out that Fred Durst is suing Universal, you know, for back royalties. So, you know, there's constant stuff going on that always ends up with you and I having a conversation and leads into something. I also know people that are frequent podcast listeners, and they may not go back to listen to the beginning, especially if there's a podcast that's been around for a while. Maybe they'll listen to a few of the newer episodes, but they won't go all the way back to the beginning and start from the beginning. Some people do, and I understand that. Some people don't, though. I know, like I said, I know a few people that won't go back. So, you know, it's always good. So even if we kind of overlap or maybe repeat ourselves or have a different, same conversation, but a different way or a different description of it, you know, that's okay, too.
Sometimes we actually may even, and I think it's happened over the season, some of the things we've talked about, we've slightly changed our perspective on it because circumstances have changed, or we wound up experiencing it a slightly different way or found a different way. Like sometimes, you know, if you're playing, say, the same circuit, you're kind of getting locked into a certain system, and sometimes you get jaded that way. But if you expand out and you experience something at another venue or with another band, you're like, hey, this is a fresh take on that. And we try to incorporate that. I mean, I think that's part of the growth of the artist, the growth of whatever it is your business model is. I think you owe it to yourself, owe it to your brand, owe it to your music to find that opportunity that you can change your perspective. That does show growth, and it shows that you're still moving forward. You're not caught in this little box. And it's a routine, man. It's that treadmill type of mentality that a lot of us do. Believe me, I did it for a lot of years. And there are certain things that I'm still on the treadmill with. I mean, we talked about that. One, because I find that some of it still works. Two, I haven't found an alternative yet, or a valid alternative that will put me someplace else. I'm still in search for it, but there's definitely some things that I have jumped off that treadmill with. Just told you before we started recording, is like I'm doing less and less social media these days for a bunch of reasons. And I think it's a topic later this season. Does it still work? And that's debatable. It's debatable, but I think if people search their souls, they'll know the answer. It's the other things, I think, that really make the impact, the behind-the-scenes stuff. And you and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah, I think that, the internet is a very interesting place to be. Because you guys as in Corners of Sanctuary, we were kind of chit-chatting off the air before we started recording. You said that you're spending a little less time offline. And that, the sad part about social media and being in a band and trying to promote is the only people that see it are the people that you interact with the most. And that's the hardest thing, that, you're trying to reach a new audience, but social media has boxed us in so much that for the most part, people that are seeing your posts are just the same people that always see your posts. So, you're not reaching any more people unless you want to go above and beyond. But even then, like, I question that too. And I don't mind paying for advertisement, but I go, they're telling me it's reaching new people. Is it? I look at my numbers, but now there's so many fake profiles on Facebook every day. Like, I'm getting friend requests from people that aren't real, or they're all bots or spam or whatever. And I'm like, this social media thing, like, it's just not where MySpace was way easier. I mean, let's be honest, they didn't have that market cornered yet, you know what I mean? Where you could post and people actually saw your posts. And now it's just gotten so ridiculous, and ads and follow this group, and come on, it's just not. I understand when you take a step back and you go, I'm not posting as much, because it's hard. It's super hard.
Well, if it's not working, there's no sense in giving the time to it.
Right.
So it's just like people experience that in all things. If this isn't working, then why waste the time with it? Let's find something that does. Business does that all the time. That model or that direction would have to change, because it becomes a financial burden, an expense that you can't recoup on, right? As much as we're doing this for passion and love, and I mean, that's all there. Let's not take that away. I mean, because, you'll have that argument. But at the same time, to keep it going, something has to come back in return for it. I don't want to talk about it too much, because we are going to have a whole episode on it, but it is something that, as the new things that I have going on and coming down the pike, and I literally have the next year and a half, I have a timeline of things that I'm preparing to do, which will keep me relatively busy, and most of that is going to really center around physical media and getting that physical media out to people face to face. You know what I'm saying? How that's all going to be achieved, I haven't quite got there yet, but I have to get the product in line, and I have to keep timelines, otherwise nothing's going to get done. I mean, I know in the grand scheme of things, you would say, well, what difference does it make? Especially for guys like us, indie in the trench, like, it's not like, well, I've always said this, if you don't give yourself timelines and deadlines, guess what? You don't do anything. There's always a reason not to do it. I'll do it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, you're like, well, I got this going on. It keeps you focused. It keeps you moving forward. And it keeps you in the game. Whatever game that is, it keeps you in there. So that's just my opinion.
It's Ross the Boss.
Take it down.
Johnny D from Brittany Fox.
This is Stephen Piercy from Rat, the Rat Bastard. You're listening to the Cosmick Voice.
To go back to that Fred Durst thing, I find it interesting, because what I think is going to happen following this, I don't know what the outcome's going to be. I'm sure they'll settle on something, not that price. Sure. If they do settle, it's going to open up a floodgate of artists coming through going, it's my turn. It's my turn. Yep. If he can do this, I can do this. Now, we don't know what he was really promised, right? He was a guy that was actually involved on the label side of things, too.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So he may have worked out some deal or whatnot. Who knows? I'm sure Sebastian Bach's going to come through and say he's owed something at this point. because he's going to need something to talk about as the months ensue.
Other than Skid Row.
No, it'll be about Skid Row and Doc McGee owing him royalty monies for songs that because I think just recently at the taping of this, he just talked about all the songs that he brought up to, those guys and riffs and stuff like that. And he just keeps adding to the, like, all these stories just keep coming out, like, years later. Again, he is the best. You talk about just, like, not letting it go.
Oh, no.
His new stuff is really, really good. The guy still has a voice. Just do that, baby. Pick up some brand-name guitar player that doesn't have a gig and run with it, man. Run with it. I don't understand. Like, there's an opportunity there that's being missed. And maybe I'm missing something. And, who are you? You're just some... And you're right. Who am I? I'm nobody. I get it. But I'm telling you from a personal life stance that has had some success in business, take the music thing out of it. I'm telling you what I'm saying. Like, hey, you know what? This guy, he still has a name. He's still...
Yeah.
For a guy who hasn't had a hit since, I don't know, 18 in life, right?
Yeah.
You're still in the media. People still want to talk to you. You're still coming into doing shows, doing these big theaters and these concert halls. You're coming out with material. And this is some of the best material that he's released in a long time, my opinion only.
Yeah.
Pick up a guitar player that people know. Doesn't have to be the greatest, but maybe do a short run with Slash. I don't know. Pick somebody. Anybody.
Yeah.
And then run with it. Like, just do your thing.
I agree.
I think you would see... Listen, if Ace Frehley can pull off what he's pulling off, and I'm an Ace Frehley fan, but, man, I'm just not excited about what he's sounding like. Like, if it wasn't for his backup band, I'm not sure what would be happening. And I've seen him recently. I've seen it firsthand. But there's a guy who's just cashing in on his name, and when 75-80% of your set is Kiss songs, do it! Sebastian Bach could do the same thing. 80% of his deal... His set list is Skid Row songs. Why not?
You're right. Why not? And, it's a shame as you and I, as artists, as songwriters, it's a shame because his last, like you had said, his recent solo record is really, really good. It's really good.
Yeah.
So it's a shame that, he does go out and does, 80% Skid Row, but that's what people want to hear. And I totally understand it. I mean, I want to hear that stuff too, but you're right, dude. You are 100% right. Like, stop worrying about, like, obviously you're not going back. There's no way. And obviously he doesn't understand that. Well, I guess in his head, he's like, why? Like, why aren't we doing this? Like, even if I'm a big pain in the butt, like, who cares? But, just deal with it, bro, and just go, you know what? I'm going to do my thing here. I always hear, the drummer in my band's a huge huge Skid Row guy, and he doesn't miss Sebastian when he comes around. And he tells me all the time, Sebastian is unbelievable live. Like, just unbelievable. Sounds good, looks good, rocks as hard as he used to. Not as hard as he used to because he's an older guy, but, when I hear that from a guy that loves Sebastian Bach, I go, well, all right, like, the guy's doing something right. So who cares? Don't worry about it. Just do your thing, man. Stop worrying about those days in the past. Move on.
He has a fan base.
Man.
He has, that's the thing. He has a fan base. I mean, he really
does.
He has a legitimate fan base.
Yes,
and
he does. Yes.
Again, I don't know. That could be parlayed into something. Look what Skid Row did, right? By bringing Lizzie Hale in. That's short term. Got it. Okay. Was it a novelty thing? Absolutely. Did it pay off? I think so. I thought she sounded great. I know there was people that said this and that. I thought she sounded great and thought it would be a good addition. But Lizzie Hale's got so much going on for herself. Being tied down to one band may not be the best thing for her. She's working with everybody. She's working with everybody.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think she was just doing something with the Evanescence singer. I was going to say
yeah,
Sarah Lee, but I know that's not her name.
Yeah.
Sarah Lee makes food.
Yeah, I saw that too. I did see that she was, she's like a Dave Grohl, right? Like, she doesn't say no to anything. She'll just throw her name on it because why not? Let's get your name out.
That's the funny thing when you look at it, for guys like us, right? For people and artists like us at our level, which is, come on, let's be honest, we're at the bottom of the rung. Maybe not exactly at the bottom. We're outside of the garage. But at the same time, we're fighting for just a piece of that pie that he has such a chunk of. And I mean,
Yes.
again, is it the same chunk that Judas Priest has? No, I don't know. I don't think that he's playing that much smaller places than Skid Row is.
Yeah, it's
It's comparable.
It is comparable. I would even sit here and say, if you want to have a conversation, a little bit of an argument, like he may be playing places that are just a tad bigger than what Skid Row's doing.
I know he does festivals.
Yeah.
I'm a Skid Row fan. I'm not taking anything away from them at all. That the fact that these guys keep going, I think it's great. Do they have an issue with singers? Yeah. Listen, so have I. I get it.
Yeah. Yep.
We're all volatile. We get passionate and excited because we're thinking about the music. Sometimes we overlook the personalities.
Yeah.
And then there's people that jump on board that expect one thing or they assume one thing, but it really is something else. Sometimes that's a lack of transparency. And I try to be as transparent as possible, but it still hasn't worked. It just doesn't work. That's human nature, man. Human nature.
Yeah.
Like we talked about. George Lynch bashes Don Dokken all the time, but in the same breath he goes, Jeff and I would like to do one more Dokken album. Dude, does the medicine kick in 15 minutes, 20 minutes into the interview? I don't know. These guys, you know what I'm saying? I'm lost. Musicians are the craziest bunch of people. Let's bash everybody, but let's do one more album together. Because we were like...
man, I just think that those guys are so... All those guys, I think, are so in their own world. They don't look at it like that. Like they just say, "Hey, I can say whatever I want, but I still want to do this." I mean, right? No matter what George says, obviously doing a Dokken record together again would be fantastic. But
I think it would be great. I mean, I really think it would be awesome. But listen, is it going to happen? Wild Mick Brown, he's retired. And Pilson's been in Foreigner for, like 15 years?
Yeah.
You know, George Lynch is finishing up his touring of whatever he's doing with Lynch Mob. And Don Dokken, I mean, he has his own version of Dokken right now.
Yeah.
So who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
And honestly, isn't 3/4 of Dokken having health issues as it is, right? Like, isn't Pilson right? Doesn't he have back surgery or need back surgery?
Something like that. I don't know.
I think he was playing in a chair at some Foreigner shows, like just trying to get through. And
that's what I want to start doing. Like, if I can get away with that, do the whole Doobie Brothers thing. Maybe I just bring out some stools. All right, fellas, here we go.
Here we go. And, of course, Don Dokken, on top of, his voice, he's got, he has some body ailments, with his stroke. And also George Lynch was obviously the healthiest one.
He is. He's the healthiest guy of them all. You know what I mean? Oh, my God. It's crazy stuff. I'm telling you.
It is crazy.
I mean, we're all dealing with something, I guess, so.
Yeah, man. Absolutely.
Absolutely. All right, so the topic of this show is the divide of genres in metal. Does it hurt the scene? Does it affect how the audience responds to bands? So the divide of genres in metal. What do you think, buddy? Does it hurt the scene? Has it hurt the scene? Has it hurt you? Are you hurt? Do you need to talk to somebody? Because I have a number after the show I can give you.
I am not hurt. I will say this. When we talked about this a couple days ago privately about, what the next show is going to be, I've been thinking a lot about this because I keep kind of going back and forth. Somebody said to me really recently, and I unfortunately, I don't remember the context of the conversation, what we had both heard. But the I was talking to or I was standing with, whatever it was, said to me, I don't like this music, whatever we were listening to. He says, but there's something about the song that just makes the hair on my arm stand up. And I said to him, man, well, that's what music's supposed to do. Like, it's supposed to move you. It's supposed to give you goosebumps. Whether you like that genre of music or not, if it touches you in a way that makes you feel something, like, that's awesome. And that's what music's supposed to do. That's why I got into music, because I wanted my music, I wanted my lyrics to touch somebody in a really positive way, no matter what I was singing about, whether I was singing about, horror or, what goes on, the horrors of the world, or, film horror, like whatever it is. Because that's the best compliment when someone says, that your music or lyrics, like, it just inspires people, or it just gives you that something, that push to or pull to get through life. Like, that kind of goosebump is amazing. And again, unfortunately, I'm mad at myself. I really can't think of the conversation. But it was a different genre of music, but we both felt the same way about that song at the time. The one thing I always knew growing up was for you to, and this is just my opinion, but I stand by it, for you to appreciate the kind of music that you really like, your favorite kind of music or play, in my aspect, it's playing, but you really have to kind of listen to everything. You don't have to like everything, but to listen to everything, because it'll give you more appreciation of what you do and the stuff that you like. And, you know, being in my 50s, I have found that to be 100% the truth. I think that when you listen to other things, it really gives you an appreciation for the music you 100% love. You don't have to like that other music, but at least if you give it a chance. Growing up during the MTV era, there was this heavy metal, thrash metal, death metal divide to like your hair metal bands, glam metal, whatever you want to call it. You know, there was this divide, right? Like you would always see guys on the heavy metal side talk about the guys that are wearing makeup and hairspray, and that really bummed me out, because I was a guy that listened to Poison and I was listening to Metallica pretty much at the same time. Still do to this day in 2024. But as I got older, I started to realize that was just shtick. Like a lot of those heavy metal guys were really fans of the hair metal era. You know, maybe they didn't like the makeup and the hairspray, but they appreciated what those cats were doing. And that's the way I think it should be. I think that music is a powerful thing. I think it's the only thing in the world that we can all relate to, no matter what you're listening to. Like music is just, whether it's from a movie or a TV show or on your radio or in your car or on Bluetooth or streaming or whatever it is, like music is that one thing that really brings everybody together. I think the divide is dumb, honestly, because there's nothing worse than, you know, when I meet people and they go, what kind of music play? I go, yeah, heavy. I go, oh, I listen to heavy metal, and you know, I'm a lover of all things. Well, okay, you don't have to explain that to me, because you should listen to everything. You know, people are always quick to go, oh yeah, I listen to Metallica and I listen to Beethoven and I listen, that's cool. But you should, you don't have to try to sell it to me that you listen to all kinds of music, because you should listen to all kinds of music. You should appreciate, or respect is probably a better word, respect other kinds of music. There's a lot of heavy metal that I don't like, but I respect what they do. Listen, I'm not a huge Mudvayne guy, and I just saw Mudvayne pretty recently with Megadeth. I appreciate what they did. They're a great band, super talented, and I appreciate that aspect of it. I'm not a fan. I never really was. But that doesn't mean that I don't appreciate or respect what they do. And I think that's what it comes down to. I think we need to start respecting the other genres. You don't have to like what I do. At least appreciate, or at least respect what we all do, no matter what that genre is, whether it's from, listen, I am not a radio rap guy at all. To me, in my opinion, it's a lot of garbage. But I understand the popularity of it, and I understand that these guys or gals are putting in some kind of work. They're putting in the work to get on the radio. They got the people behind them. Just because I don't like it doesn't mean it's not good, because obviously somebody likes it. And that's important, because it's, it's such a popular thing now. I was just at a party last night, and the people that were at the party, they were listening to this new form of country where they're kind of infusing rap into it. Totally not my thing. But I'm like, yeah, I can see it. Like, I can understand that people are getting behind it, because it's kind of catchy. It's kind of cool. It's a different way to look at country music. It's selling country music even more popular than it is now, especially because the area that you and I live in, Mick, country music is a big thing. So, you've infused this country kind of pop, rap, rock, whatever, however you want to call it. And the stuff's good. It's not my thing, but I respect that people like it. And obviously they're doing something right, because people do enjoy it. And it's a big part of the country music scene right now. So do I think the division hurts? I do think the division hurts. I think there should be some kind of, especially in metal. I feel like the people that I talk to, especially younger guys, because I work with a lot of younger guys that are into today's rap. I feel like they like it all. Like, they'll listen to the radio and they'll know all the songs on the radio and they'll like it. Where if metal, it's very, very divided. I feel like maybe not necessarily the younger kids, but I feel like our age group, Mick, I think is very finicky about metal. We all like metal. I get it. Like, we all like our own little genres. I'm a huge thrash guy. Like, to me, that's the best of the best. But I have friends that play metalcore. You guys play a more classic version of heavy metal, and I like it all, and I appreciate what all you guys are doing. And You know, a good band is a good band, a good musician is a good musician, a good song is a good song, no matter what you're playing. And that to me is the most important. So the division between metal genres, I think it hurts also too, because I understand that it's also a selling point, right? Like, you know, I'm in a thrash band, you're in a classic heavy metal band. Like, I understand that because you want people to like that kind of music to find your music. I get that. It's always been like that. But I also kind of feel like it hurts because we all fall under the same heavy metal category. And, you know, even on these streaming sites, like, that's the thing it does. If you like this, listen to this. And I get that, but I think it really divides. I think it's a bummer because, you know, I think we're missing bands because of it, really good bands, because of that division. I get it. I totally understand it, but I'm not a big fan of it. You know, you and I talked about this in, I don't know if it was last season or season 5. Like, we talked about all the subgenres of metal, and there's so many. And these great bands keep getting lost in the shuffle because of these, you know, these subgenres. And with these subgenres, it just hurts because there's bands not being heard. If you want to do death metal, thrash metal, electronic metal, new wave of heavy metal, like, I'm a little more okay with that. But when you start getting into grindcore and you start getting into these other things, I think you lose people because there's just so much out there that's being missed.
I totally agree. With the Cosmic View, I have interviewed a lot of artists, and I've asked that question. Do you feel that this genre classification that has splintered and faceted into so many different aspects, some of I just don't even know. I couldn't even give you a short answer of what that type of music would be. I've asked, has it hurt artists in terms of getting their music out there because it becomes so specific, and has it made it difficult for an audience to actually find you, like you were saying? And it's really a mixed thing among artists. I think that some people, younger artists, have no problem with it. It's, because we're trying to tailor it to a specific a specific taste. Okay. Then you have the artists that are for it because they have found a niche, or they didn't fit into a certain mold, and this makes it easier for them to stand out. Like you were saying, it's a promotional tool, it's a marketing tool, it's a branding option. Totally get that. And then you have artists, and sometimes these artists, for the most part, are more veteran, seasoned artists. They've been around a lot longer. They have an issue with it because it creates a level of confusion. Not only for them, as we're like, hey, what are we? But like I said, for an audience that's trying to just kind of pinpoint. And as you quickly touched upon, it becomes difficult during that breakdown, as it's further divided, to actually find music. Because I personally think that this subgenre, this specific labeling that's being created, is subjective. Case in point, when my band first started to get out into the scene, maybe I'm guilty of it too, maybe it becomes a matter of survival. But anyway, we came out and we were just calling ourselves heavy metal because that's what we knew. I wasn't really, again, and maybe this was my own undoing, not aware of all these other... I realized that there was thrash and there was this and so on and so forth, but then I didn't realize that there were all these layers underneath. I just never really paid attention to it. And like I said, not being a digital downloader, even to today, I don't have a Spotify account. I never did iTunes. I had an iPod, but I just took all my CDs and popped in my CDs onto my iPod.
Yeah.
I didn't go buying stuff. If I bought something, I bought the CD to download to my iPod. So that being said, they were like, no, you're not heavy metal. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, my day heavy metal was, you know, Grim Reaper, Armored Saint, Dio, Iron Maiden, even though there was a specific there. But you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was just one big moniker. We were like, well, now you guys are like hard rock, or you're classic rock, or you're whatever. I came to find that heavy metal and metal were two different things. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It didn't even make sense to me. Like I was having a hard time wrapping my head around it. You know, as time went along, we just took what we thought we were, or what our influences were, and we put them together, and we started adding that under Corners of Sanctuary. Like we were the new wave of traditional American heavy metal.
Right.
And for some people that was cool. For other people outside of America, they had a problem with it. But to me, we were a product of the new wave of British heavy metal and American metal at the time. Like, how couldn't we be? That's what we were doing. And we still run with it, because to us, that's what we created for us. There is apparently now, and it has been for a number of years, the new wave of traditional heavy metal, but we're not listed under there. And that actually doesn't even have what I think would be traditional heavy metal listed in it. It's not. But I do think there is a confusion point both for artists and how I define myself, because it's such a thing. Well, what are you? Well, what do you mean, what am I? And we're in a society right now, not to talk about that, and I don't want to get into it at all, but about how you define yourself.
Yeah.
And it's carried over into everything.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, good point.
And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
that's a detriment to us as artists, as human beings, because if you don't define yourself, there's a problem. Well, listen, I just am what I am, because that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable, right? Sorry, Popeye, I am what I am. Doesn't work no mo. It's a problem with music, because they don't know where to put you. And again, going back to, as an example for my band, in the early days of us playing out, they had no idea how to put us on shows. So we were being thrown in with death metal bands and extreme thrash bands, because at the time that was what the scene was. Or we were too heavy for regular rock bands, which I don't buy either. And then people were going, well, you're a little light for this and, you know, and this and that and the other thing. And I'm like, well, we held our own. We had no choice. If we were going to play, this is what we were doing. I found that with all this genre classification and subdivision and people, you know, they wear the badge of honor. Hey, I only listen to this and that and the other thing. And being a band that nobody could figure out what we were, as we were being compared to ZZ Top or AC/DC to Judas Priest to Armored Saint to Man of War, whatever, that we were still getting decent crowd reactions. Played a show with the Butcher Babies, which I thought would be great. We wound up getting it, of course, but the first thing the booker came back and said, well, you're a little light for this kind of show, don't you think? And I said, absolutely not. He hemmed and hawed, but we got on it. We did great. It was a great show for us. The crowd loved us. It's not a pat on the back. I'm just demonstrating that I think that because of all this genre classification, which I'm going to go back to, I'm going to digress a little bit, as part of that interview process that I do, I've actually brought up the question to the artist, do you think this is just another marketing ploy from the labels to kind of almost pigeonhole buyers? A lot of them have said yes. It's a way to conquer and divide. Because when you wear something that nobody else is wearing, you feel pretty special, don't you? And genre classifications and subdivisions create that. So how do I get these people that may have a little bit more of an obscure taste and or don't want to follow the grain? Well, this is the way you create that. A special club. How many special groups are there on Facebook? You have a group for everything.
For everything.
And there's multiple groups for sometimes that same thing, because they tend to sway one way over the other. And in a business sense, you have to consider, how do I get that money? Where I grew up, there was always this saying, like, people had to figure out how to get the poor people's money too. Because getting the wealthy people's money is easy. They have it. There's an excess of it. But how do you get people that aren't to spend money too? Well, that's why you have bargain brands. That's why you have knockoffs. That's why you have that opportunity. Same thing, and this is just my opinion. This is why I feel there's so much of this. And because of that, it has trickled down to a division in the scenes. There's no division per se, like as you mentioned, in the upper ranks, is there? Back in the 80s, it wasn't uncommon to see one kind of band with another kind of band.
No.
Right? Like Bon Jovi opening up for Judas Priest, or Bon Jovi doing, you know, whatever. Queensryche opening up for Def Leppard. Metallica toured with a variety of bands.
So did Ozzy.
Right, so did Ozzy, right? I mean, look at the US Festival. You had that metal night where Van Halen headlined. You had Quiet Riot opening the show. You had Judas Priest. You had Motley Crue. Right? Nowadays, you would go, oh, they're all different kinds of bands. They don't have the same... Back then, it didn't make a difference. Van Halen was never a heavy metal band.
No.
But they were thrown into that category.
Yeah.
Because it didn't matter. Listen, you and I recently did an interview for a project that's coming up in 2025, and we talked about how everybody shared the same love of all the music. It didn't matter.
Yep.
Like, when we were kids, hair metal, that term didn't exist. That didn't show up till the 90s. And once that classification started happening, there was the Great Divide.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And now it's trickled down into the local and regional scenes.
Yeah.
Do you think when they go 5 bands deep, and you and I have seen this, there was just a recent show that I played with some veteran band that's been around for, probably when this stuff started breaking, I should say. There was such a dichotomy of opening acts. You and I had said, well, okay, this band kind of fits the theme, but this band doesn't. Did it work? It did kind of work. Where it didn't work is it didn't hold the crowds for every band, especially, unfortunately, for the headliner, because you had bands that necessarily did not fit the bill 100% because of the mentality, I feel, today that you have with the audience and with venues. I was just put on a bill, just recently, and within a week I was taken off the bill with the reasoning being, oh, you guys are too heavy for this band. And I was like, what are you talking about? It doesn't make sense. I go, the information I was given about this headlining act, they were pretty heavy. But I was given some other thing, and it just didn't make sense. And you know what? Here's the funny thing. They were struggling to get opening acts. They wound up taking a death metal band to open.
Right.
So what are you talking about? You have these things in your head. Listen, everybody has their, how would you say, their connection to music and how that music kind of relates to them.
Yeah.
You could take band A and 5 people and they'll all say, oh, it sounds like this, it sounds like that, it sounds like that. 5 different things. That's normal because how it resonates with you, the individual, the audience, the listener, then you'll associate that with something that you like. I remember I was in an interview and the guy said, you guys have that Whitesnake feel. Though, to me, that's an awesome compliment, especially their Slide It In era with John Sykes and Cozy Powell. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But they were referring more to the supergroup era. And I'm saying to myself, well, not really, but hey, I'll take it. Because that's what they related it to, okay?
Yeah.
So I understand that. But when you're being force-fed genre specifics, well, this is this kind of music, this is this kind of music, and that's where you start getting this great divide. So finally, I'm getting around to it. The division that I've seen in the scene is that bands and venues are doing the same thing. I have not been put on bills because people think we're either too heavy, which is a little crazy, or too light.
Yeah.
And I've said this before, I've always talked about this. I have found that the way we play our music, and again, some of this is because of how we work doing our business, is that we have worked into... Listen, I've opened up for Saving Abel. Now, they're not heavy metal, are they? No. But I have the ability to play some lighter songs in that regard and make it work. I've opened up for Sponge. Crowd went nuts. I've opened up for Tantric Direct Support. Crowd went crazy. Like I said, we weren't heavy enough for Butcher Baby. Well, we opened up the show and people went crazy. It's not that these bands can't do this or doesn't work. It's just that they're not given a chance because of this division that's now become the norm. People bought into it. It's like years ago when, well, I got to see your Reverb Nation stats. Are you kidding me? It's not even real. The funny thing about Reverb Nation was it was never the audience listeners. It was band on band or artist on artist. And none of them are coming out to see you and or supporting you because they only liked you so you could get a like back. That's all. It doesn't work like that. Same thing with the Facebook numbers. It's all, one, nowadays it really is BS. But two, if you have a following in the UK, which my band kind of does, that's why we were out there twice, they're not coming to a Philadelphia show, a California show, a Chicago show, are you? Like, I'm not Barry Gibb. I do 6 shows and people fly in. It don't work like that, man. It's not happening for me. So it's hindered the scene so much that there's less of a communication. And listen, I've experienced this with people that I know very well and have worked with on projects, but they won't ask me to do a show because in their mind, because of the music that I play, I'm less than them.
Right.
And that's okay. Because guess what, bud? I'm not going to ask you either. Not because you're heavier than I am or consider that maybe even that you're better than me, which is okay. I don't mind playing with better bands. That ups the ante for me, baby.
Absolutely.
I want to play. To tell you the
Absolutely.
truth, man, listen, here's the thing. And I know the model is when you're putting a show on, you don't book a band that's better than you. I look at it the other way. The last thing I want is, especially my show, that I got to sit through bands that are terrible or that I don't like, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I don't do that. One, I want to showcase bands that, I want people to hear because I like them. And I want to be associated with artists and bands that are of a certain caliber. Why would I want to take steps back? Like, I don't want to be a garage band anymore.
Exactly.
And a band can be new, right, and still working out their chops, but they're presenting themselves. I want to work with that band. I want to work with that band. And I've done that through my entire career, man. That's why I work with you. I want star power on my shows. I always put you as the headliner. Always.
No, man, like that's legit, bro. Like there have been so many times where we've gotten asked to do shows, and I go, we don't match the bill, and I go, I just want to play with those bands. Like it doesn't. It's cool with me. I like those bands. I like those dudes or dudettes, whatever. And I go, yeah, like I want to play the show. While we were talking, I was thinking back years ago. I used to hang out with this a band from the Philly area. I was like their roadie, stage manager, for lack of a better word. But I went everywhere with these guys. These guys are my friends, and they were an amazing band. They never could take a higher step because they were so original. And I know that sounds odd to say. I mean, this was a number of years ago. But what they were playing is something that no one else was playing. And unfortunately, because they couldn't get pigeonholed into a genre, it didn't work out for them. Because like you, they were starting to get that, well, you're not heavy enough for this show, but you're too heavy for this show. And it was like, well, just put them on, like, because they're really good and they're super talented dudes and the songs are amazing. But they never got to the next level because they were, these guys were on YSP when Tommy Conwell was doing Loud Local. That's when you could go in and play in the studio at the time. And those guys were in there. They played on I guess it was a Sunday night. Like they were on the air. They just never were able to break into the next step because they were so different and people needed to put them into a pigeonhole to be able to move forward, right? And we hear that about actors and actresses a lot, where these people maybe start out doing Disney stuff or maybe they start out doing sitcoms, and it's hard to make that next progression into their career because they get pigeonholed into these, into these things. If you were on a sitcom, people only see you as a sitcom. And that works the same as bands. And unfortunately, a lot of bands, they get lost in a shuffle, like you guys are having trouble getting to that next step because you're not as heavy as some bands and you're too heavy for other bands. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, just put you on the bill and just see what you can do. And because really, at the end of the day, listen, honestly, you just recently played a show with two bands who didn't fit the bill at all. And it didn't make sense to me. And nothing against those bands, because I know the one band, they're great dudes. I like the band, what they do, but they didn't fit that bill. I just feel that it hurts when we try to put people into a box. Just like, and I'm sure you've had this before, Mick. I'm sure you probably will hear it by the end of the week. Oh, cool, you're in a band. What kind of music? Heavy metal. Who do you guys sound like?
Yep.
Now I got to decide who I'm going to sound like. That people are going to go, oh yeah, so I usually go, well, Metallica. And they'll go, oh, cool, I love Entertainment, whatever. And I go, no, like old Metallica. And they don't know. Most people know. But that's the thing. like, I'm trying to figure out exactly how I'm going to listen. I play fast heavy metal. It's hard for me to put myself into a box because we pull in different influences from different bands. And I'm not saying we don't like anybody. We all sound, at our age, we all sound like somebody because we all grew up listening to something.
Your band sounds like a train going through a building on a loop. It's nonstop, like in your. It's crazy. I am worn out listening to you guys. It's so friggin' intense. Oh my god.
But like that's the thing, and it's hard because that's how we're taught now. Everything needs to be.
We've been conditioned.
With some kind of description.
I was offered a show. I was on the phone, offered the show with a legendary band, and I says, absolutely, let us know. Well, either someone got into the ear or whatever. And listen, I'm not really that bummed out about it. But, a show's offered to me, I usually, and I've said this before, I usually take it. I mean, that's the opportunity to play, right?
Yeah.
Then I finally had a face-to-face, and they said, you guys just aren't heavy enough for this band. Again, not really understanding how this works. Because heavy sometimes is a perception. I could just speed things up, and all of a sudden I'm heavy.
Yeah,
I just pull out some of the other songs, and it's a matter of attitude. It's a matter of how you approach things. Are there bands that are heavier? Absolutely. Am I goofy to think otherwise? No. And what's funny is I played with way heavier bands than the band that they offered me the show. But the band that they replaced us with was probably the actually better fit, and they should have thought of them in the first place. Because it's a mentality thing. Like you're saying, we've been conditioned now to think this way and think that way. And it's affecting artists.
You are listening to the Cosmick Voice with your hosts, Chris Natalini and Mick Michaels.
To go back, has it affected things? Has it made things harder? Yeah, like you said, somebody asks you, you're in a band, what do you sound like? And you're like, And you know exactly what you sound like.
Yeah.
But you know that's not how you're supposed to sell it.
Right.
Because the average listener doesn't understand that. Doesn't understand that.
Right.
I just recently was listening to some music that somebody was writing. They've gotten this little contract to write some music for this publishing company, and they're playing it for me. I'm not exactly sure what they were looking for, but I was like, hey, this is cool. This sounds like I think he was surprised at the musical diversity in my terminology because I'm just a metal guy.
Right.
And I bring it up art because
that.
this was completely out of my genre, right? This was not in the metal genre. This was something completely different. And I was like, this sounds like so-and-so. And I gave him a year. I go, man, this is awesome. Like, I go, you add some backing vocals to this. This is definitely, to me, something. And then some of the other songs, I go, hey, this sounds like so-and-so. And they're looking at me like, how do you know that? You don't do this kind of music. And I'm like, well, actually, yeah, I have done that kind of music. It's just maybe not under the Mick Michaels name. Okay? So let's take a step back. And, like, metal people aren't idiots. And they're not just locked into whatever you may think. These are very different. I mean, look, a lot of the great guitar players, they're classically trained guys.
Yeah.
They know music.
Yeah.
Like you said, a good song is a good song. A good band is a good band. Hands down. It doesn't matter the genre.
Nope.
So let's look past that. We all have multiple tastes. It's impossible not to. If you are so locked into something, man, your life must be boring. And that's not passing judgment, but I'm like, there's so much more to life than just that. Like, and I could eat oatmeal 3 times a day. Sure, absolutely. But there is other things that I like to do at times. Like, I'll throw in eggs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whatever.
Blueberry.
I think it has hurt the scene. I think there are people out there that are still making headway. It's just an uphill battle. We just have to work a little harder to demonstrate that as artists, as bands. That's it. It exists. It exists. Like Santa Claus and peanut M&Ms. They do exist. We just have to learn how to navigate through that. And if we focus so much on it, we're going to get lost. And we're not going to do what we want to do. And what we're going to then try to do is always fit into a mold. And we've talked about that before. Can it be done? Absolutely. Is it sustainable? Absolutely not. That's sometimes why you see an artist change second and third album. It becomes more of what they want to do. Cinderella is a prime example of that. I'm not saying they were definitely trying to fit into a mold. They were doing what they were doing at that time because that was the scene. They were a blues band that played heavy, and they became more and more blues-oriented.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bud? You got anything else you want to add?
I think that, we just need to just enjoy music. If you're a music lover, just listen to everything. You don't have to like it. Just listen to everything and just enjoy it, man. Enjoy it.
That's it, man. Keep swinging for the fences, or keep swinging
That's it.
until someone else goes down. If you like that episode, check out some of our other episodes at www.thecosmicvoice.com. Step into the Cosmickverse and fill that void. Thanks so much for listening. This is the Cosmick Voice. Be sure to check us out at thecosmicvoice.com. Like and follow us on Facebook at The Cosmick Voice. You can find The Cosmick Voice everywhere you listen to online podcasts, like Deezer, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and so many more.
All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Mick and I would like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Also, feel free to let us know what topics you'd like to see covered in future episodes of The Cosmick Voice. And you can get in touch with us through thecosmicvoice.com and, of course, all of the Cosmick Voice social medias. Take care and be safe.
You're listening to The Cosmick Voice. Music, talk, and nothing but business.